So today's podcast, I'm joined by, I was going to say fellow Scotsman, but you're now back in Asia. So Mr. Mads Singers, who was staying in Glasgow for a while. So Mads, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thank you very much, Craig. I'm doing fantastic. I'm sitting here in Asia and enjoying the heat.
I'm not jealous whatsoever. We are sitting in, I think it's like 10 degrees, pissing the rain, and you know it very well anyway, being staying the last 6 months in Greenock. So not jealous at all of you lying about in Vietnam or wherever you are just now, enjoying some of the sunshine. But it's good to have you on anyway, and talk a bit about what you're currently doing, what you specialise in, and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, you've been to the Glasgow meetup and stuff like that, and I still think guys don't fully understand what it is Mads brings to the table because the people here are so far behind the times. But hopefully the people on the podcast are a bit more up with the times and they do actually get what you're doing. But for anyone listening, can you just explain a bit about what you do and what your core value is in this industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I work with a lot of SEO companies, and basically what I do, like my key focus, if you will, is really around management coaching, right? And it's really about helping people build great teams, scale, and really get the structure in. Because a lot of SEOs, they start out either in affiliate or in the agency world, and most of them don't have a background managing people. So what very frequently happens is they start a business, suddenly they're surrounded by a bunch of people, but they don't know how to manage them effectively. They don't know how to get the most out of them, and they don't really know like what to do to scale the business. And that's really where I come in. So like I've worked with some of the biggest SEOs around. So I work with people like Matt Diggity. I work with even the Ahrefs guys like Tim So and so on. So I work with a lot of the big guys and really help them, get to the right level of management skill. I just worked with a huge guy from the US last week, and basically again helping him put the right frame, the right structure in place, find the right people to sort of manage his operation and so on. And that's really the sort of core of what I do, right? I have a great training as well on the management skills, which are basically called the 80-20 of people management. And I've built that specifically so people can up their game, right? And it's like when you can learn SEO, you can learn management. Like the reason why most people hate managing staff is because they've never spent time actually learning it. And just like the first 10 seconds you look at SEO, it looks complicated as hell, right? But the more you start knowing, the more you start understanding it, the easier it is. And it's the same with management, right? Like fundamentally, management ain't like extremely difficult. But there's definitely some basic stuff you need to know. And that's basically the sort of basic stuff I go through in my course and really get people up to scratch. And generally what I say, like doing that course, you get better than 90% of the people out there just simply because most people don't invest in it.
Yeah, I think, I had an agency years ago, and it was by pure fluke. It wasn't something I set out to do, and I really had no clue and no real desire to manage people properly and stuff. But I think when you have that approach where you don't really give a toss, it has a massive negative impact in your business because people are people and they do need managed. And I think that was obviously one of the kind of failures I had, if you like, when I had an agency, was not having access to a guy like yourself who could, help me or, implement things within my business that would have a bit more structure, where I just wanted to be everyone's friend and everything else, and just have an easy life. And people like you would probably kill me for even thinking about having that approach. So I think, as an SEO guy, most guys, I'm assuming, just stumble across this stuff and build up an agency, and that's where guys like you come in, because people do struggle to scale. They just don't know. They're not businessmen. They're not business. They're not thinking like businessmen, and that's something. Obviously, I've adapted and would consider myself fairly astute at business now. But when I was running an agency, I had no clue. I didn't even know, when I was starting an agency, that I had to get an accountant and pay tax and all that kind of stuff as well. It was just a complete minefield. I just wanted to make money online and didn't really understand anything else. So I think, having someone like yourself who has that experience and background and knowledge and, all of the other stuff is adding massive value. And, you're working with some of the biggest players in the game, and obviously that speaks for itself. I mean, do you do this kind of stuff online, or do these people come to you, or do you go to them?
So
how does it work?
Different models, to be honest. So like I do a lot of consistent coaching with people where we meet a couple of times a month, and that usually happens online. A lot of the time when people either if they have an office location, or a lot of the people I work with obviously have sort of distributed team, but once in a while they basically bring the team together in a location, and often I would go work with them at that location, right? So like at the moment, because it's getting near Chiang Mai, a lot of people is bringing some of the executives or sort of high level team out to the Chiang Mai SEO conference. So both before and after the conference, I'm meeting with various people to kind of give their team a shake up and so on. And that's different models depending on the situation of the clients, right? But basically my focus is to go in, like in some cases, as I said, I work solely with the owner. In some cases it's the owner and the management team. It often depends on how big the business is and so on. But one of the key things for me, right? One of the key things I see happening consistently is people are like, oh, this guy's great at link building. We have 10 link builders. Tomorrow he'll be the manager of the link building team. But it's not like he wakes up tomorrow morning and suddenly have management skills, right? So one of the key things for me is really make sure people also invest in the staff they promote. Because one thing is to own skills, but when you promote someone into a new position, like just because they're good at link building doesn't mean they're a good manager. So making sure you actually invest in the people you promote into management position is one of the sort of pet peeves that I'm really, really keen on pushing people on, because it makes such a difference, right? It makes such a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're 100% spot on, because guys out there who are good at link building probably know next to nothing about managing other people. I'm not saying Gary Wilson, for example, isn't a good people manager. He's obviously got VAs and stuff, but he's a young boy and doesn't really have a background in that. So and I know he's done consultancy and obviously has tried to better himself with yourself. But just as an example, I'm using Gary as just a crazy young boy who's found himself with VAs and probably doesn't know how to speak to people properly. So I take it that's something that you work with people on over a period of time. It's not, you can't just train someone management skills overnight. How, what is the kind of process for that? Is that something you do over like a year or 6 months, or what's
the
so
it's actually a bit of a different, Craig. So different people have different needs, right? They have different team sizes and so on, right? So mostly generally I say the clients I've worked with is like on a coaching level, it's usually people that have at least 3 staff, right? Because until you have some staff and have experienced some of this stuff, it's often harder to relate to it. So I generally like sort of the one-to-one coaching is usually 3 staff or more. Obviously, the management course I have, people can buy at any level, right? But sort of the coaching, I generally focus on people that have at least 3 staff, because that gives sort of a good foundation of experience. And it's often good to start while you're small, because that means you avoid a lot of the problems. A lot of people, they come to me when they have 15 staff and, everything's up in the air and everything's fucked up. But then it's often a lot, it takes longer to fix it. And it's a little bit more difficult because you might already have like totally screwed up the relationship with some of your staff and things like that, right? So basically the engagements look different. So again, some people, like if I get to spend a couple of days with them, like that can make a huge difference, right? And then usually what would happen is I would sort of do coaching for a period of time. People have different objectives they're trying to reach. Like I've had clients that I've worked with for more than 5 years. And I've had a lot of clients that I work with for maybe 3 months or 6 months or something. So it's very, very different depending on what people are trying to do. And again, what skills they bring to the table, how quickly they pick it up and so on. It's very different from person to person. So my focus is getting them to a level where, where they're all comfortable and where things are moving the right way.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're dealing with these things, you're seeing a lot of the problems in probably a frequent basis. What are the kind of main things that people do wrong when they're managing people? Is it things like they're becoming too friendly with them, too close to them? What are the kind of top 3 things, for example, where people are just shooting themselves in the foot right off the bat?
I'll take it from a slightly different angle. So I'll say the things where people often aren't doing well is, number one, is they don't actually build a relationship with the staff. And what I mean with that is you don't need to be friends with people, but you need to listen to people. You need to treat them as human beings. Like I worked with a client the other week who literally he had worked with a VA for 5 years and he had never even had a voice conversation with them. Like throughout 5 years, he had only been writing on Skype to this VA. And obviously, I'm not saying he got no value out of it, but if you have a great employee that will work with you for a long time, if you actually like open Skype, open some video, like get to know the person as a human being, like you can get so much more stuff out of them, right? Like the example, I always love the same one, but I basically say if your friends call you up and say like, hey man, I'm moving on Saturday, can you come help? Like if you help, generally depend on how good a friend they are, right? And it works the same way in business. The better you take care of your staff, the more you listen to them, the more they feel respected, the more they feel valued, the more they're gonna do for your business. And if they feel like, oh, this guy doesn't talk to me, he just he sends me stuff once in a while, he doesn't really care who I am or my family and that kind of thing. Like if that's the case, then like you're not gonna get the same output. Right. It's the, if, it's 5:01, I'm out the door versus, it's 5:01 and there's still a little bit to do. So I'll finish that off. It takes 10 minutes and then I'm on. Right. But like, that's the difference. And the second thing that I see, and probably the biggest issue most people have, is really around delegation. Right. Like effectively delegating both tasks and responsibility. There's so many people on the internet that's like, oh yeah, you built this process, you give that to someone and you tell them to press the button 2 million times a day. And while giving people a process can be helpful, like you need to give them ownership, right? Like you need to make them care. Because if you just hand people a task and say, hey, do this one thing 7 billion times a day, right? One, they don't know if it goes wrong. They don't you don't build the care and you don't give them the responsibility to actually take ownership of the tasks, right? And that's, I think that's sort of the second thing I see. And the third thing is probably a step back from that is really in the recruitment phase, right? Like a lot of SEOs particularly is not great at recruiting, right? They're just not good at it. So that's like one of those things where they can quickly increase their skill set by investing a little bit of time trying to become a little bit better at it, right?
Yep. I think you've probably said a lot of the things that I'm really bad at, like or was bad at when I had my agency, recruitment. I've actually done a podcast with another guy earlier on, and we were having this discussion in terms of, problems we've had recruiting in the past and stuff like that. And, you literally have half an hour or an hour to make a decision on a person. But this guy takes people to the pub and gets them to loosen up and spends a bit more time with them because he values, getting to know people better. And I think that was quite, a great angle to hear that guy actually goes to those lengths when he's looking for new members of staff. He feels that that's a great place and takes it that step further with recruitment. Whereas before I was just like, get 10 people in and I'll pick the best one. And again, that's probably just not the best attitude to have.
In my training, I go through a lot of this stuff, right? But one of the fundamentals is when you're looking at a pool of people, the best one might not be good enough, right? Like you might have 20 people in your office and none of them cut it. Like, and that's a lot of people go down that hole of let's hire the best. But the thing is, if the best you have sitting in front of you isn't good enough, like you don't want to hire them. And I mean, again, if you're hiring in the Philippines or if you're hiring somewhere remote from you, obviously taking people to the pub becomes a little bit more difficult, right? But yeah, there's definitely something to be said about it. Like one of the key things for me about recruitment is that most people look at it as a fulfillment process, but really recruitment is sales. Most people is like, oh, people should be so happy to work for me. Here's a job post. I'll put it up online, right? Really, if you want the best people, you have to sell your job, right? Like you have to sell your company. Like you have to get people coming in the door saying, I don't want a job. I want to work for you, right? Because again, one of the fundamental secrets about recruitment is that the best people are rarely unemployed, right? If you have really good people, they don't sit around unemployed. What most people do is they post on job boards, and generally the people looking on job boards are unemployed, right?
Now, yeah. I mean,
right. So
it makes perfect sense.
One of the sort of small secret hacks I use to do this one is LinkedIn, for example, is a great place. And what I do specifically on LinkedIn, or what we do generally with my team, is we would find people with the right skills. So let's say we need someone who do, I don't know, active campaign. Like we would go to LinkedIn, search. You could search for a geographical location and search for active campaign. Then start messaging people and say, hey man, I can see you have experience working with active campaign. We currently have this job opening available. Would you happen to know anyone that would be a good fit? So we don't try and poach people directly for a few reasons. One is if you just try and poach people, say, are you interested? What will happen is the discussion will very quickly be, how much are you paying? And then it just becomes a numbers game, right? With a guy you don't even know. But if you actually say, would you happen to know anyone? Yeah. We get two great responses. One of them is, oh, yeah, I know this guy who would be awesome. And the other great response is, oh, that actually seems interesting to me. But rather, the problem is a little bit when you're headhunting, when someone is being headhunted, they already feel sort of above the process. And they feel like, oh, you already contact me. Why do I have to prove myself? Whereas when you do it the other way, sort of say, hey, we have this job role available. Would you know anyone? It kind of makes them part of the job process as anyone else. And we don't know at this point in time, you don't know any better anyway, right? But it's a good way to fill your funnel with people who are either recommended by good people or, potentially people that you write to directly that shows interest in the job.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff, and it's amazing to hear, even those simple little hacks. It's not until you actually say them, you make it sound really simple, and you sometimes, every time I talk to you, I feel like going, Craig, you're a stupid guy. What he's saying just is so simple, makes so much sense, but I think, lots of us just don't think the same way that you think, and as I say, it's massive, and when you say it, you can see why it works so well. But a question I've got for you, for anyone listening, going, Mads talks a lot of sense and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know you look like you're 75, but you're a relatively young guy, according to to the driving license that you showed me. And so where did you learn all this stuff? Because obviously you're mid 30s, and you talk like a, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but you talk like a guy who's got so much more experience in business. And I know you've came from IBM, which is obviously massive, massive company. Is that something that they trained you at a very young age? Or, how did you come to understand and learn all this stuff, or
It's a
where
longer
does it
story,
come
but
from?
long story short, like when I was younger, my ideal job, I wanted to be a computer guy, right? And what happened was when I turned 18, I got a job working in Ireland for a company called Xerox. And basically, what happened within a few months, like I got the
Hmm.
most amazing manager, and my mindset in probably 2 to 3 months, my mindset went from I want to be a computer guy till I want to do what she does, kind of thing. And I was, to
Hmm.
put it politely, I was fed up with school. I'd left the IT education I was in the middle of because I learned nothing. And, school is like you have to follow the slowest dude in this class and all that stuff. So it was a total waste of time. But what happened was that like I got this great manager and I basically got super freaking inspired and similar to what a lot of people do with SEO, to be honest. So I literally sat down and I'm like, I'm not going to school, but I want to do this management thing. How do I get there? And I literally ended up doing a ridiculous amount of self-development. Like for about 10 years, I would read a book a week. I would do all these various online courses. I would find mentors. I would literally I would literally walk up to people in the company who were in management and say, "Hey, my shift finished at 4 o'clock. Can I come and sit and look what you do like an hour or two after work? Like just sit and look at what management stuff you do." And so I got totally gung ho into management, and after a couple of years, I managed to move into to sort of various management roles, and basically that's yeah. I continued my self development like crazy. I even paid out of my own pocket to go to various management seminars and stuff, and I totally I know not many people in their 1920s do that kind of thing, but that was my stuff, and that was really what what turned me on in that regard, right? And that was how I got to where I am, and I mean I remember one of the one of the first meetings I joined IBM in Scotland after about 5 or 6 years, and I remember one of the management meetings, right, where I was sitting there, I was probably mid 20s or so, everyone else in the room was like in 40s, early 50s. And it was an interesting experience. But yeah, I mean, definitely from my point of view, you learn a lot from working in big corporations because there's a lot of people around to manage. There's a lot of there's a lot of system, there's a lot of frameworks, so they have a lot of that stuff. But honestly, majority of my knowledge is come from self development, right? Like just like most SEOs learn SEO, right? They read some stuff, they do some courses, they test, and that was one of the things that was what corporate was for me. It was an amazing test ground for actually testing out some of all this stuff.
Interesting, and it's obviously interesting that you talk about self development, and it's obviously something you
Totally.
still do to a certain degree. You still attend conferences and meetups and everything else that obviously you're not being paid for, and obviously it's all part of a learning experience. And I think people don't fully value the self development side of things. For me, over the years, and even to this day, I spend tens of thousands of pounds a year going to all over the world, and learning and talking to guys like you or Diggity or any of the other guys over in Asia or guys over in America, and it's constantly developing, and even ticket prices to go to some of these masterminds and stuff, people will go, fuck, I'm not paying £1,000 to sit with guys in a mastermind. And, I keep telling people, don't have that mindset. It's absolutely ludicrous because you have to invest in yourself. And, you've probably spent $250,000, if not more, on self-development. So, and it's obviously paying off, and it's paid off massively for you because you've got all these guys now coming to you saying, Mads, you're the man to help me out. So I think you're one of those examples where you're not academically, you didn't go to university to learn this stuff. It's just, a different
Yeah,
route.
and
And
I'll
it's
say,
great to see
first
that
of
that's
all, I'd say
worked.
if I'd only spent $250,000, I'd be a rich guy right now. But but no, totally. I mean, one of the things you learn in management, and one of the things you learn just generally in business, is networking is probably the number one most important thing you do, right? And for me, like, I'll go. People are like, "Oh, this conference is shit," and I'm like, "I'm sure it is, and I'm sure there's some awesome people lurking around." That's why I go there, right? Like, I don't go and necessarily listen to a bunch of speakers and stuff like that. Sometimes there's great speakers, don't get me wrong, but I'm there to meet people, right? Like, I'm there to network with people, get to know people, because that's how you build. Like, if I want to build a new company tomorrow, right? Like, if I had to hire 20 amazing staff tomorrow, I have them. Like, I have them in the back of my head. I have them in my network already, right? And this is one of the things. Like, when I work with clients, right? Sometimes, like, I was literally, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was literally sitting in a meeting with coaching a client through a full day, and he's like, "Yeah, I really need this guy, and I really need this guy." And literally, I would say 2 phone calls, and a little bit later, he have those guys on his team, right? I know so many people in the industry everywhere, and when people need, like, are looking for staff, like, I'm not saying I can always have someone that fits them perfectly, right? But the whole point is that, like, I built such a big network, because whatever you're trying to achieve, having a huge network just makes that, like, infinitely easier. Like, when you're launching a podcast, having a big network, pushing it around, amazing, right? If you're launching a new platform, a new business, whatever, like, having that network just makes it so much easier. And that's where a lot of SEOs go wrong. They're sort of sitting at home in their cave, not really talking to anyone. It's a shame, because it's holding them back, right? Like, most SEOs is like, "Oh, well, I want to build this business. I hope to have 5 staff in like 5 years' time." But they're growing so slow. Like, if you want to see some of the guys that knows business, like, they'll build a 20 people, 40 people agency in a year or two, right? I'm not saying agency is necessarily right or wrong, but I'm just saying, like, when you have the right networks, then, like, even things like getting clients, like, I probably have 5, 6 referral coming to my inbox every single day, right? Because I've worked with a lot of people, I know a ton of people, and I've so many people popping up my inbox. And you know what that does? That means I can pick the clients I want to work with, right? And, like, that's amazing. Like, if most SEO
Yeah.
companies had it that way, if they're not like, "Oh, Tom from Tom's Auto Trader, whatever it's calling, he I'll charge him $500 a month and do some SEO and all that crap." They do it because they have no option, right? No one else is calling them. But the whole point about networking, the point about knowing people, is the fact that, if you're a good guy, if you do what you say you're gonna do, like, people is gonna refer you. And like, one of the good examples, like, Matt put out an article in the end of last year, where he said, like, basically purchasing my service was like best investment he had done in 2018, right? And I I probably got about 100 emails in a very, very short span of time, right? But again, like, that happens through other people. Like, honestly, for the first 5 years of my business, I didn't even have a website. Like, I didn't need it.
Nah, I think what you do, and something that sticks in my head. Obviously, when we met up a few times in Glasgow when you were over here, was that you take the time out to talk to the guys at meetups. The guys that are lurking around in the background and stuff. And that's something that stuck with me. I'm going, this guy, does take time. And you said it. You take time to go and talk to every single person, and people will come away going, he's actually a nice guy. and that works wonders for you as a business. And everywhere everywhere I go, I hear people saying, "Yeah, Mads this, Mads that. Go to Mads for this, go to Mads for that," um, and that in itself is going to beat any website that's out there, and their rankings and everything else, because as you say, you're doing what you say you're going to do, and you help people, and you've helped some of the biggest in the business and stuff like that. And obviously, it's all about networking with those right guys. So obviously, all your training, self development, time networking, and everything else clearly works massively. And I think, again, it comes down to mindset, because previously, before I started doing the whole speaking thing and networking and everything else, I used to not want to speak to people like you, because in case you stole my ideas or whatever. I just had this thing where we were all rivals, and we don't network, we don't go for beers together, because you might steal my idea and go and do some lead gen on some roofers websites or whatever the hell I would have been doing at that time. So I think you need to quickly snap out of that, and we can all make money together and help each other,
I totally
which I
agree
think a
with
lot
that,
of people
right?
don't
And that's,
understand.
like, the world is a big place, right? And no, like in SEO particularly, no one have a magic bullet, right? No one have a magic niche. No one have if you're good at SEO, like, you can make money in like local, you can make money in global, you can make money in like affiliate or whatever, right? And yeah, I'm not saying like show everyone in the whole world your website, right? But the whole thing is, if you want to grow, if you want to learn, like if you find some like-minded smart people, you sit down and look at their website and give them some feedback, and they look at your stuff and give you some feedback. Like, that's the best way to learn and grow, right? Because like fundamentally, like, we don't all know everything. Like, I don't know everything. Every time I meet people like Jonathan Kitbush, for example, is a very interesting guy. I love talking management with him. And I do it like not because I fucking know everything, but because, like, I'm like, maybe this guy knows something I don't. Maybe he have like a golden nugget that I don't have yet, right? Like, that's what I'm keen talking about.
Yeah, I think in this industry in particular, you don't know what you don't know, and you're always thinking that someone's got something secret there, and you're always trying to unravel it, and talk to people and say, is this, am I doing everything the wrong way? Is there something I'm, a tool, or from an SEO point of view, I'm talking about, like, is this guy got some weird ass tool that does all this stuff that, the magic potion or whatever it's going to be? You just don't know where you're at, and that's the funny thing about this industry. And it's funny that you mentioned Jonathan Kickbush, I don't, Jonathan Kickbush, great guy and stuff, but I get the same kind of feeling from guys that I've looked at over the years, like Diggity, Matthew Woodward, and all that, and you're going, are these guys actually doing something else that I don't know about? And yeah, it's very interesting trying to unravel the mess, but I think we're all doing the same stuff. Maybe, a couple of wee tricks here and there we're missing out on, but it's fun, certainly picking people's brains and trying to add that to your repertoire, if you like. But over and above the whole management thing, which you clearly do very well, um, are you still doing the kind of helping people find VAs and all that kind of stuff? Is that still a main focus for you?
Sorry, I started doing
You're on
coaching
mute,
about
Mads,
7 years
by the
ago,
way.
and what I quickly realized was that a lot of people were not very good at finding staff, right? So what I did was I started out an outsourcing company, right? And right now that pretty much runs without me. So we have about 130 people that works primarily with SEO businesses and e-commerce businesses, and basically we basically help people find amazing staff and then basically help them staff up, right? Because so many people really struggle to find the staff, and they really struggle to with that sort of foreign culture and so on, right? So we help with the management and so on, and basically when people work with us, they basically just need to show people what to do and how to do it, right? We deal with all the personal shit. We deal with all the, oh, my computer's not working, or my internet is from 1943 and all that sort of stuff. And we basically just help them get shit done, right? Because for most business owners, they end up spending so much time getting into the nitty gritty of, oh, my grandma is in hospital and life sucks, and like they all that sort of stuff, right? Whereas really with the outsourcing business, we try and sort of take all that stuff away from the clients, so they just have to focus on what to do and how to do it, right? And we work with again a lot of very very big SEO companies, and it's really a good way to get started with outsourcing, and it's really a good way to sort of get moving with it, right?
Yeah, and just to be clear, for anyone listening, Mads does actually do the interview process of these VAs and everything. Literally everything is done for you. And I think that's something that maybe you uh, don't talk about as much, Mads. You kind of downplay it, saying, "Yeah, come to us and we do this great job." But I think you undersell. The whole interview process alone, interviewing VAs, and is probably 10 hours worth of work right there. And you guys are obviously doing that all day, every day, and taking that crap away from the business owners. And I think it's a massively valuable service, because even things like posting a job on like onlinejobs.ph, for a guy in the UK to even start posting a job, it costs you $60 to just join onlinejobs.ph before you even sift through the candidates and talk to people and all that kind of stuff. So, there's always that. You've got to value your time wisely, as well as a business owner, and delegate that stuff out as well to people like you who
and
are
that makes a ton of
specialists, if you
sense. And
like,
it's not just that.
finding
Actually,
those people.
what most people find frustrating is when they post a job and then they get, 35 emails in the mailbox with different resumes, and how the hell do you compare them, and how the hell do you figure out who to talk to? And because if you're going to try and talk to 35 people, that is a lot of time and scheduling and planning and so on, right?
Yeah, it's just a big fat pain in the ass. Um, but no, it's good to hear that that's still going strong as well. And obviously, I just wanted to point that out to anyone listening. If you are looking to get VAs and stuff, that you do have a service that is available to help with that as well. And I know a lot of guys over the years have used you for that kind of stuff and speak very highly of it. Um, so you're going. So finally, before
Every
you
year.
go, Chiang Mai SEO, you're going there again this year. Every year. Yeah, I'm not going to make it this year, sadly. Um, but I'm going to have massive FOMO. One of the best events out there, and not just for the networking, just the whole atmosphere and everything else is something else. I'm going to miss drinking out of your bucket. And all the other kind of crazy carry on that's
No,
going
I'm actually gonna
on
be.
over there.
I'll
So,
be in
are
Chiang
you
Mai. So
going
as
to
I
the
said, I'm
Bangkok
working
blowout as well?
I actually have three different clients that are sort of getting the teams together prior to Chiang Mai. So I'm actually going to be very busy working with them before the conference, and then I'll go straight into the conference after that. Now, during the conference, there'll always be buckets.
So, no buckets this year. Is that what you're saying? And for anyone who doesn't know what a bucket is, when I met Mads in Chiang Mai last year, he was walking about literally with a white bucket full of vodka, rum, and every other alcoholic drink possibly poured into this one bucket, and he was drinking it out of a straw. Mind blowing stuff, but it seemed like a lot of fun and tasted like a lot of fun as well. But it's probably one of the reasons it took me a month to recover
one of the
after
key
that
things
trip.
for me is obviously
It
efficiency, and the
sucked
problem is
a
when you
lot of
have
energy.
800 people standing at a bar, it takes a long time to get in there. So when you get there, you might as well fill up the bucket. So yeah.
Do you know what? That is another wise move, and again, very simple, but I didn't actually think about it that way. I was one of those stupid guys walking backwards and forwards to the bar, fighting and elbows and all of that kind of stuff, trying to get into the bars there. So another tip that you have that's ingenious. But we are sadly out of time, Mads. Just quickly before you go, if anyone does want to get a hold of you to
Yeah, so
talk
my
to you about
website,
coaching or
mattsingers.com,
anything
is a
else
great
that
place to
you've
start.
spoken
So
about, where's the best place to
the
get a hold
management
of you?
training is in the tab called Management Academy. And that actually, right now, there's actually a bonus where you get the training itself plus a free coaching session for just 997. So that's a great offer. And then, my email is there as well. And basically, you can find me on all the social media. So Matt Singers, either Facebook, LinkedIn, whichever tool you like. Yeah, and I'll make sure we add I'll show we add everything to the show notes and so on. So
Whatever. And that's, yeah. I'll certainly put a link to your website and stuff under the podcast. One last
they
little
could have
bit.
blocked me,
If people can't
but
get a hold of you on
I would
Facebook,
rarely
have
block
you
people.
potentially blocked them? Like you've done with me? But no, and on a
Thanks for having
serious
me.
note, thank you very much for taking the time to come on, Mads. It's been a pleasure as always. Cheers.